Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Indie Alaska is an innovative weekly web series capturing the diverse and colorful lifestyle of Alaskans. Real stories of everyday Alaskans at work and play. Supported in part by Alyeska Pipeline Service Company.
The National Weather Service.
Good evening, I'm David Kramer here with your Alaska weather. As always, please visit our website at arh.noaa.gov. You can get any updates to our forecast there or any watches, warnings, advisories that we have out. You can also call in on our weather info line at 1-800-472-0391. Get any updates through that means as well. And you can follow us on both Twitter and on Facebook. One of the recent posts that we've had on Facebook is about the warm winter that we had. This is for times of record from October through March, and much of mainland Alaska saw a pretty warm winter here. Some places such as Barrow and Kotzebue set their record for the warmest winter. And then some other places, McGrath and Cold Bay also the top one for wintertime, warmest winter that they have had. Some other places, especially out in the western parts, have seen top 5 rankings. Some of the more eastern ones, Fairbanks and Anchorage, seen ones closer to the 10th ranking there. But the reason that we did not include the southeast on this image is because southeast for this wintertime has saw pretty average temperatures. It was mostly mainland Alaska pushing into the southwest that saw the above average winter weather conditions. Another thing that you're probably aware of now is our Alaska Flood Safety Awareness Week this week. And one of the ones that we wanted to focus in on today was rainfall flooding. A little bit different. We know in breakup time we do see a lot of ice dam jamming that can cause some flooding, especially on the larger rivers. But the smaller rivers are more susceptible to rainfall flooding, especially areas around steep slopes. Those can cause the rain to really funnel down quickly, cause some mudslides with that, especially areas where there isn't vegetation, whether that be natural or due to any kind of burning. So watch out in those locations. Mudslides can happen pretty quickly and be pretty dangerous. This picture here that we have is from the Iliamna River flooding over the bridge. That happened back in 2003. And if you check our website, we'll have the next one for tomorrow, April 18th, and to finish up our Alaska Flood Safety Awareness Week. Elsewhere, we'll look at our satellite imagery of the upcoming systems that we have. Starting off to the south of the Aleutian Islands, you can watch the storm track of this low moving up. That's going to head towards the Gulf of Alaska here over the next couple of days, bringing with a lot of moisture and warmer weather from the south. As we watch this loop one more time out over the Bering Sea, we have our main low pressure system here circulating right around Dutch Harbor area, and that is bringing in a lot of moisture to these areas as well. Still seeing some showers out there, a lot of rain in the areas right around the low, a little bit more snow mixed in some of the places further off in the Bering Sea and out by the western Aleutian Islands. As we look out over mainland Alaska, we have our other low pressure system hanging out near the Panhandle area. We can watch that circulation bringing in some cloud cover as well, pushing out past the Yakutat area, starting to make its way closer to the south central, but we're seeing a lot of rain with that, pulling up some moisture from the south. As we watch the loop one last time, we're going to check out mainland Alaska here, where we had some cloud cover especially early on, but that is starting to break up, and we're starting to see some better conditions in the evening hours throughout much of mainland Alaska. That takes us to our forecast for the remainder of the day, starting off by the eastern Gulf with our low out there, bringing in a lot of rain to the Panhandle area, a little bit spottier as we get further to the north, but still seeing some rain associated with that low pressure there. As we move along the Gulf coastline into the south central, pretty dry for the rest of the evening here, but as we get into the eastern parts of the Alaska Range, a rain and snow mix expected out there, pushing us up into places in the eastern interior near Northway. We're going to see some snow showers mixed in with rain there as well, and then by Bettles also an area of isolated rain and snow mix. Then along the north slope out east, we have some areas of fog, but as we push further to the west, we are seeing that mixed in with some snow, especially from Barrow down to the Point Hope area. Down the western part of the state, pretty dry for the most part, with the exception of near St. Lawrence Island, with some snow and fog extending up towards the Bering Strait area. And down in the YK Delta, some areas of rain and snow there, and as well as in the Bristol Bay area, rain and snow, especially in the evening hours. We're expecting that to be primarily rain, but it's going to mix with snow as we get over further into the evening hours as temperatures start to drop. Then down near Kodiak Island, some rain expected there. Down in the Aleutian Islands, some rain there as well. A little bit colder with a northerly flow for the western Aleutian Islands, a rain and snow mix for that area, as well as the central Bering Sea, where the Pribilofs are going to see a mix of rain and snow as well. Taking us into the tonight forecast, our low is going to continue to rest right around the eastern Aleutian Islands, bringing in some northerly flow throughout much of the Bering Sea and Aleutians, bringing a rain and snow mix there. Once again, evening hours going to be more rain, but as we get further into the night, going to mix more and more with snow. Morning hours going to be the strongest for the snow out there. As we move into the Bristol Bay area, all throughout there from the Alaska Peninsula to Kodiak Island up through the YK Delta, expecting to see a rain and snow mix there. Rain in the evening, mixing more with snow as we get further into the nighttime hours. Up along the west coast of the state, not a whole lot of activity except for west of Galena. We're going to see some isolated areas of rain and snow showers. As we move further off to the west, we're going to see some fog lingering around between the Bering Strait, pushing down closer towards Gamble. Up in the western part of the Brooks Range, we're going to see some snow there, and as we get up along the coastline, we're going to have some fog with that snow as well. And that's going to extend over much of the Arctic coastline all the way out to the east with that snow and fog mix. But as we move further to the south, we're going to lose the fog, but we're going to gain some rain through the central and eastern parts of the interior, extending all the way down into the Alaska Range. A rain and snow mix expected for tonight. As we get back into the south central, we're going to start off rain in the evening hours, mixing with snow as we get closer to midnight. But as we get along the North Gulf Coast, that's going to remain rain throughout all of the nighttime hours and pushing into the Panhandle area there. The only exception is near White Pass. We are going to see some snow with the colder conditions up through the pass. As we move into Friday, pretty similar conditions expected in the Panhandle. Rain throughout much of the area, but up near White Pass, going to continue to see snow up there. But we want to pay attention to this next low coming up from the south. You can see the tighter pressure gradient around that, expecting some stronger winds, but a lot of moisture being brought up with this low, and we'll have to watch that throughout the weekend, especially as it gets closer to the Panhandle area. Along the North Gulf Coast, we are going to see rain moving into Prince William Sound area and starting to get into places into the south central, but more snow associated with that in the morning. Afternoon hours going to warm up and going to switch over to be primarily rain. That's going to be true for Kodiak Island as well. As we get up further to the north into the Alaska Range and the interior, going to see a rain and snow mixture throughout all of the interior locations, with the exception of a few spots such as Fairbanks area should remain pretty dry throughout the day. So we get up into the Brooks Range, expecting to see snow extend all across the Brooks Range. And then along the Arctic coast, going to see some light flurries up there as well, but we are going to see some fog right along the coastline. As we move down the western part of the state, Seward Peninsula area should be pretty dry, but as we get further off to the west towards St. Lawrence Island, we are going to see some flurries with some fog out there. Then down the west coast of the state, even further, YK Delta area, rain and snow mixture pushing down into Bristol Bay as well, and we are expecting to see some fog push in around the coastline there for Bristol Bay, especially in the morning hours, and Dillingham should be one of the worst for those locations for the fog. As we move into the Aleutian Islands, northerly flow is going to bring us some rain and snow showers, and then as we move into the Bering Sea, a little bit colder there with that northerly flow, expecting to just see some snow showers throughout much of those areas for St. Paul and St. George. As we move into Saturday, then pretty similar conditions for the Bering Sea, northerly flow bringing in some snow showers, warmer as we get to the Aleutian Islands, expecting to see that mix with some rain down there. So we move further off to the east in the Bristol Bay area, rain and snow mixture extending up and through the YK Delta, especially along the coastline there, and then all the way up into the Norton Sound area. A little colder as we move off towards the west, going to continue to see lingering flurries and fog out by St. Lawrence Island, extending up towards the Bering Strait area. And as we move even further north from Point Hope area all along the Arctic coastline, expecting to see flurries with some fog up there throughout the day on Saturday. Pretty dry for much of the interior, with the exception of near Bettles, expecting to see some isolated snow showers lingering around there on Saturday. Then down in the south central, we're going to see pretty clear and dry conditions there as well. As we push further to the south, Kodiak Island expecting to see a rain and snow mixture. Then down in the Panhandle, our low is getting even closer, expecting this to push further to the north throughout the day Saturday. So we have some rain extending into places of the southern parts of the Panhandle that will also push further north as this low continues to track north as well. Taking a look at our temperatures as of this afternoon, in the mid to upper 40s for the Panhandle area, a little bit warmer at Skagway there, 54 degrees this afternoon. So you look into the south central, temperatures in the mid 40s for the most part, a little bit colder actually at Kodiak there, 41 degrees. Glen Allen as well at 41, Valdez 45 degrees this afternoon. Looking into the interior now, in the mid to upper 40s for most locations. Fairbanks getting all the way up to 50 degrees this afternoon, but colder as we get further to the north, with Arctic Village at 32 degrees and through the pass down to 21 degrees this afternoon. Then along the Arctic slope, we are seeing temperatures primarily in the teens, a little bit warmer as we get further off to the east. Then as we look down on the west part of the state in the Kotzebue Sound area, temperatures primarily right around 30 degrees, a little bit colder at Shishmaref there, 21 degrees this afternoon. And then down in the Norton Sound area in the lower to mid 30s. Taking us down into the southwest part of the state, temperatures primarily in the mid to upper 30s there, getting into the 40s as we get into the Bristol Bay area, with king salmon and Iliamna both at 42 degrees this afternoon. Down in the Alaska Peninsula, right around 40 degrees there as well. A little bit warmer at Cold Bay, 43 degrees there. Dutch Harbor at 40 degrees this afternoon. And then into the central and western Aleutian Islands, mid-30s there, with 36 at St. Paul and 37 for St. George. Taking a look now at our lows for tonight, we have temperatures remaining in the mid-30s throughout much of the Aleutian Islands, dropping down a little bit for the Pribilofs, getting down to 33 degrees at St. Paul. So we move into the Bristol Bay area, dropping down just below freezing there. King salmon getting down to 30 degrees tonight. Then in the YK Delta area, dropping down below freezing there as well, with Bethel getting down to 30 degrees. In the Norton Sound area in the mid-20s for the most part. Nome and other places along the northern part of the Sound going to get down to around 20 degrees. Kotzebue Sound area into the mid-teens for lows tonight. And single digits along the Arctic coast, a little bit warmer as we get further off to the east, only getting down to 10 degrees at Barter Island. Then down in the interior, dropping down to the lower 20s there, and remaining in the lower to mid 30s as we get into the south central, with Homer only getting down to 37 degrees, Cordova only getting down to 38 for a low tonight. Then down in the Panhandle, getting down to the mid to upper 30s there. For highs tomorrow, bouncing right back up into the upper 40s, getting as high as 50 degrees at Ketchikan. And as we move along the coastline, getting into the mid to upper 40s for many places in the south central. Not as high for Cordova or Glen Allen, only getting up to 40 and 41 respectively there. Into the interior part of the state, mid to upper 40s expected. Colder as we get further to the north. The pass only going to get up to around 29 degrees tomorrow. And then along the Arctic coastline into the mid-teens there. Warmer as we get further off to the west now in the Kotzebue Sound area, up to around 30 degrees there, with Kotzebue getting up to 31 degrees for a high tomorrow. Down in the Norton Sound area, getting up to around 40 degrees there. Nome staying a little bit colder, 37 tomorrow. Down in the southwest part of the state, mid to upper 40s for YK Delta and Bristol Bay areas, and then up to around 40 for much of the Aleutian Islands. 36 expected high for St. Paul. Switching it up a little bit, we'll look at our aviation forecast here. Widespread MVFR conditions remaining throughout much of the Bering Sea and Aleutian Islands. Further off to the east, we are expecting IFR conditions out there. And some of those lingering conditions for the fog extending in along the coastline into the Bristol Bay area. Then all along the Gulf Coast, we are expecting to see MVFR conditions extending in a little bit further as we get closer to the Panhandle, and some moving into places in the south central as well. Much of the interior should be VFR, but along the Arctic coastline, a mix of MVFR and IFR conditions as those areas of fog move through. As we look through the passes, Anaktuvik should be VFR throughout the day tomorrow, as well as Adigan Pass. Lake Clark and Merrill will both be down to MVFR conditions for tomorrow. Rainy Pass will also be marginal. Windy Pass will start off VFR, but then drop down to MVFR as the day progresses. Isabel Pass will be the same, starting off VFR and dropping down to MVFR. Tenino will be MVFR throughout the day. Portage will also remain MVFR throughout the day, and Chilcoot and White will both be marginal throughout the day tomorrow. Taking a look now at our freezing level, moving along the panhandle, hugging the Gulf coastline through the south central and into the southwest part of the state, staying now a little bit further south into the Bering Sea and exiting out by the western Aleutian Islands. So look at our icing for tomorrow, staying out west, Bering Sea and Aleutian Islands, primarily going to see 5,000 to 10,000 feet there. A little bit higher as we get further to the north, between 7,000 and 12,000 feet there. But as we drop back down into the south central and extending out into the panhandle area, going to see between 6,000 and 11,000 feet. And then with our next system moving up, we are going to have some icing there between 6,000 and 11,000 feet. And that is going to continue to push closer to the panhandle throughout the day tomorrow. So we look now at our jet stream. Much of mainland Alaska not going to be too affected by the jet, but as we look down further to the south along the Alaska Peninsula, hugging the Gulf Coast and exiting out through the panhandle, 65 knots out east and 75 as we get further to the west. However, the main core of the jet going to be well south of the Aleutian Islands, but up to as high as 150 knots out of a westerly direction there. Looking down at 9,000 feet now, circulation around our low at this level out of an easterly direction along the west coast for 15 to 20 knots, and that is going to change and become more northerly as we get over the western Aleutian Islands, but going to remain at the 15 to 20 knots there. Southeasterly flow over the south central, 15 to 20 knots. Strongest winds with the low further to the south, and that's going to be anywhere from 30 to 35 knots, but dropping down to 25 over the panhandle. Northern part of the state going to be pretty light with 10-knot winds. As we move down to 3,000 feet, we can stay focused on the main low that is south of the panhandle with winds as high as 60 knots circulating around that low. And as we move over the panhandle, 35 knots dropping down to 25 knots there. Still enough to produce some turbulence in that area though. Over mainland Alaska, southeasterly flow, 15 to 20 knots there. Easterly flow along the Arctic coastline there at 15 knots as well. And then flow easterly direction, 15 to 20 knots, extending out over the Aleutian Islands, becoming more northerly as they get closer to the islands. We can take a look at our turbulence. Mainland Alaska, Bering Sea, Aleutian Islands, not expecting to see too much turbulence tomorrow, but in the southeast part of the state below 6,000 feet, going to see some moderate turbulence there. And as those winds move up further to the north, expecting to see this area extend into more places further to the north in the panhandle. And if you stay with us, we'll be back shortly with the marine forecast.
Planet hopping all night long.
Welcome to Stargazers. I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Pla Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida.
And I'm Dean Regas, astronomer from the Cincinnati Observatory.
For you planet lovers out there, we have a treat for you this week.
That's right, James. Earth is in just the perfect spot this week where you'll be able to see bright planets all across the sky, no matter what time you go outside.
And one of those planets is going to be nearing opposition in just a few weeks, and it'll be bigger and brighter than it's been in years. What are we talking about? Let's show you.
Okay, we have our skies set for just after sunset facing west, anytime next week. The first planet you'll spot is the king of the planets, Jupiter. You can find Jupiter by using the stars of Orion. Take Orion's ankle star, Rigel, draw a line through the belt stars to his shoulder star, Betelgeuse, and you'll land smack dab on the stars of the Gemini twins.
Jupiter is the bright, white light amid the stars of Gemini. The way you can tell that this bright light is a planet is that it won't be twinkling like the nearby stars, Castor and Pollux. Plus, if you pay attention to Jupiter's position night after night, you'll notice that Jupiter is slowly moving through this constellation. And next year this time, it will be in the constellation of Cancer the Crab.
If you have a telescope, you'll definitely want to check out Jupiter, because even with the smallest and least expensive telescope, you'll be able to see 4 of Jupiter's moons. These would be Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto.
The next planet in our parade is the red planet Mars. At the same time you're outside looking at Jupiter, swing yourself around 180 degrees and face east, and you'll see bright reddish Mars rising among the stars of Virgo the Maiden.
Mars is in a great position right now because just last week, Mars was at opposition, and therefore Mars is closer to us now than it will be for the next 2 years. Also, Mars will form a neat little triangle in the sky with the bright blue star Spica, the brightest star in Virgo the Maiden, And the bright orange star Arcturus, the brightest star in Boötes the herdsman.
To find Arcturus, simply look toward the northeast and take the 3 stars marking the handle of the Big Dipper and trace an arc away from the Dipper's bowl, and you'll land right on Arcturus. We call this trick arcing to Arcturus. Speaking of planets in opposition, we have another planet that's going to be close to us soon. On Mother's Day weekend this year, my mom's favorite planet will actually be at its closest to us for the year. Let's advance time to about 11 p.m. your local time. And if you look toward the east, you'll see the ringed planet Saturn among the stars of Libra, the scales.
Saturn is the second largest planet in our solar system, and over the next few weeks, you'll get some tremendous views of the planet's rings. Saturn is tilted at such an angle that its rings will make it appear the brightest it's been since 2007.
And for you triangle fans, Saturn will form an even bigger and brighter triangle with Mars and Arcturus. So, if you're a fan of 3-sided planet-made polygons, this will definitely be the night for you. Let's see, so that's Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn. I think we have one more planet in our lineup tonight.
That's right. If you're an early bird like James, go outside about an hour before sunrise and look toward the east. There you'll find our sister planet, brilliant Venus. In the latter part of next week, the waning crescent moon will have 2 close encounters with Venus. On the morning of Friday, April 25th, you'll see a slender crescent moon up and to the right of Venus. And then on the morning of Saturday, April 26th, the moon will be down and to the left of Venus. Both views will be stunning, so make sure you get outside those mornings to check it out.
So there you have it. From sunset to sunrise, you have a perfect plethora of planets for your pleasure. At sunset, we have Jupiter visible in the west and Mars visible in the east.
And at sunrise, we have Venus visible in the east and Saturn visible in the west. Keep looking up.
Welcome back. We'll take a quick look at the ice edge to start us off here. A little bit different look than what we're used to, but we wanted to focus in on an area on the northern part of the Seward Peninsula here. There's Wales down there, Shishmaref is right here, and we wanted to see the shorefast ice that was along this edge. If you can see, there's kind of a little, if you really focus in, the pink line there is donating the edge of the ice edge there, and we're going to see that shorefast ice extending up. It used to be all the way up until right around the Kotzebue Sound area, but as you can see from Shishmaref north, you can start to see some breaks in that ice as a lot of that shorefast ice has really started to break up very recently here, so be mindful of that if you were going to be out on the ice in that area. As we look further off to the east in the Kotzebue Sound area, ice continuing to break up there as well. For other areas around the state in the Cook Inlet area and Bristol Bay areas, ice free with the exception of river ice moving into the waters there. And then we also have for places around Nunavik Islands, a lot of clearing quickly happening there over the last couple of days. So keep an eye on that as well. So look out over the main part of the marine forecast. Starting off in the southeast, we have southeasterly flow, getting up to as high as 25 knots in parts of the eastern Gulf with seas up to 10 feet there as well, especially further to the south. As we move into Saturday, flow switching up, becoming more easterly, 35 to 40 knots now in the eastern Gulf with seas getting up to 21 feet there, dropping off pretty significantly closer to Yakutat, however. In the inside waters, we do have some winds getting stronger there as well, 25 to 30 knots. And between Juneau and Petersburg, we are expecting some higher gusts with the northeast winds there. So watch out if you're moving through channel terrain. Then in the south central part of the state, southeasterly flow, 15 to 20 knots with some seas only getting up to about as high as 5 feet there. And for Shelikof Strait out of a southeasterly direction as well. As we move into Saturday, flow switching, becoming stronger out of a northeasterly direction, getting as high as 30 knots with seas getting up to as high as 16 feet now south of Kodiak. A little bit weaker in Prince William Sound and northern parts of Cook Inlet. As we move into the Alaska Peninsula, variable flow, pretty light, 10 to 15 knots there, seas only around 5 to 6 feet. And then on Saturday, flow becoming more northwesterly, and that's going to get up to now 25 to 30 knots on the Pacific side, a little bit weaker on the Bering side. Seas now 8 to 14 feet, getting strongest near Chignik. And then as we move into the Aleutian Islands, flow primarily out of a northwesterly direction, 20 to 25 knots there, more northerly as we get closer to Shimia. Then as we move into Saturday, out of a westerly direction now, 15 to 20 knots, getting stronger as we get further to the east, up to as high as 30 knots south of Unalaska Bay, and seas strongest on the Pacific side, 8 to 9 feet there. So look along the west coast of the state, flow out of the north, strongest up towards the north, 25 knots, dropping down to 10 to 15 as we get further to the south. And as we move into Saturday, going to see flow primarily out of a northerly direction, still 20 knots further to the north and 25 as we get closer to the Pribilofs. Then up along the Arctic coastline out of the northeast at 10 knots, places further to the east. Then along the west coast, a little bit stronger out of a northeasterly direction, 25 knots there. And then on Saturday, going to see winds 15 to 20 knots out of a more northerly direction, becoming more easterly as we get up towards Barrow and places further to the east, 15 knots there. Quick recap over the weather for the state. Going to see rain throughout the Panhandle, extending into parts of the northern Gulf, mixing with snow as we get into the south central and places near White Pass in the Panhandle. Up through the interior, central, and eastern, expecting to see a rain-snow mix all the way up through the Brooks Range. Then we're going to start to see more snow as we get further along the Arctic coastline, mixing with fog right along the water as well. Then as we move down the western part of the state, west of Galena, a mix of rain and snow there. Fog out by Gamble. Rain and snow mix for the YK Delta, Bristol Bay, and Kodiak Island areas, and that's going to extend also throughout the Aleutian Islands and into the Bering Sea for tonight. Then on Friday, pretty similar, but we are going to see some more snow in the Bering Sea. Rain and snow mix along the Aleutian Islands into the southwest part of the state with some morning fog near Bethel. But much of mainland Alaska going to see that rain-snow mix switching over to more rain as we get further into the afternoon hours, and that rain extending down into the Panhandle as well, with some snow and fog along the Arctic coastline. And with Alaska weather, I'm David Kramer. Thanks for staying with us tonight.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Did you know most wildfires happen in spring? It's because the grass and trees are so dry. Protect your home with what they call a defensible space. Remove spruce trees and tall grass within 15 feet. And move firewood 30 feet away. Clean out yucky rain gutters too. Doing this made our house up to 5 times more likely to survive a wildfire. That's good news for me and Max. Wildfires happen. Be ready. Brought to you by the Anchorage Fire Department.